Today we're continuing to read The Pilgrim's Progress. Then said Christian, I perceive not yet, by what you have said, but that this is my way to the desired haven. Be it thy way, we will not choose it for ours. So they parted, and Christian went on his way, but still with his sword drawn in his hand, for fear lest he should be attacked. I saw that in my dream, as far as this valley reached, there was on the right hand a very deep ditch. That ditch is it into which the blind have led the blind in all ages, and have both there miserably perished. Again, behold, on the left hand there was a very dangerous quag, or marsh, into which, if even a good man falls, he finds no bottom for his foot to stand on. Into that quag King David once did fall, and had no doubt there been smothered, had not he that is able plucked him out. The pathway was here also exceedingly narrow, and therefore good Christian was the more put to it, for when he sought in the dark to shun the ditch on the one hand, he was ready to tip over into the mire on the other. Also, when he sought to escape the mire, without great carefulness, he would be ready to fall into the ditch. Thus he went on, and I heard him here sigh bitterly, for besides the danger mentioned above, the pathway was here so dark that ofttimes, when he lifted up his foot to go forward, he knew not where or upon what he should set it next. About the midst of this valley I perceived the mouth of hell to be, and it stood also hard by the wayside. Now, thought Christian, what shall I do? And ever and anon the flame and smoke would come out in such abundance, with sparks and hideous noises, things that cared not for Christian's sword, as did Apollyon before, that he was forced to put up his sword and betake himself to another weapon, called all prayer. So he cried in my hearing, O Lord, I beseech thee, deliver my soul. Thus he went on a great while, yet still the flames would be reaching towards him. Also he heard doleful voices and rushings to and fro, so that sometimes he thought he should be torn in pieces, or trodden down like mire in the streets. This frightful sight was seen, and those dreadful noises were heard by him for several miles together, and, coming to a place where he thought he heard a company of fiends coming forward to meet him, he stopped, and began to muse what he had best to do. Sometimes he had half a thought to go back, then again he thought he might be halfway through the valley. He remembered, also, how he had already vanquished many a danger, and that the danger of going back might be much more than going forward. So he resolved to go on. Yet the fiends seemed to come nearer and nearer, but when they were come even almost at him, he cried out with a most vehement voice, I will walk in the strength of the Lord God. So they gave back and came no further. One thing I would not let slip. I took notice that now poor Christian was so confounded that he did not know his own voice, and thus I perceived it. Just when he was come over against the mouth of the burning pit, one of the wicked ones got behind him, and stepped up softly to him, and whisperingly suggested many wicked words to him, which he verily thought had proceeded from his own mind. This put Christian more to it than anything he had met with before. Even to think that he should now speak evil of him that he had so much loved before. Yet if he could have helped it, he would not have done it. But he had not the wisdom either to stop his ears or to know from whence those wicked words came. When Christian had travelled in this sorrowful condition some considerable time, he thought he heard the voice of a man as going before him, saying, Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Then he was glad, and that for these reasons. First, because he gathered from thence that some who feared God were in this valley as well as himself. Secondly, for that he perceived God was with them, though in that dark and dismal state. And why not that he with me, though by reason of the kindness that attends this place I cannot perceive it. Thirdly, for that he hoped, could he overtake them, to have company by and by. So he went on, and called to him that was before, but he knew not what to answer. For that he also thought himself to be alone. And by the day broke, then said Christian, He hath turned the shadow of death into the morning. Now morning being come, he looked back, not out of desire to return, but to see by the light of the day what dangers he had gone through in the dark. So he saw more perfectly the ditch that was on the one hand, and the quag that was on the other. Also, how narrow the way which led betwixt them both. Also now he saw the hobgoblins, the satyrs, the dragons of the pit, but all afar off, for after break of day they came not nigh. Yet they were shown to him according to that which is written, He showeth deep things out of darkness, and bringeth out to light the shadow of death. Now was Christian much affected with his deliverance from all the dangers of his solitary way, which dangers, though he feared them much before, yet he saw them more clearly now. Correction, yet he saw them more clearly now, because the light of the day made them plain to him. And about this time the sun was rising, and this was another mercy to Christian. For you must note that, though the first part of the valley of the shadow of death was dangerous, yet the second part, which he was yet to go, was, if possible, far more dangerous. For from the place where he now stood, even to the end of the valley, the way was all along set so full of snares, traps, gins, and nets here, and so full of pits, pitfalls, deep holes, and shelvings down there, that, had it now been dark, as it was when he came, the first part of the way, had he had 1,000 souls, they had in reason been cast away. But, as I said just now, the sun was rising. Then said he, His candle shineth on my head, and by his light I go through darkness. In this light, therefore, he came to the end of the valley. Now I saw in my dream that at the end of the valley lay blood, bones, ashes, and mangled bodies of men, even of pilgrims that had gone this way formerly. And while I was musing, what should be the reason, I spied a little before me a cave where two giants, Pope and Pagan, dwelt in old time, by whose power and tyranny the men whose bones, blood, ashes, etc., lay there were cruelly put to death. But by this place Christian went without danger, whereat I somewhat wondered. But I've learned since that Pagan has been dead many a day, and as for the other, though he be yet alive, he is by reason of age also of the many shrewd brushes that he met with in his younger days. Correction, many shrewd brushes that he met with in his younger days, grown so crazy and stiff in his joints that he can now do little more than sit in his cave's mouth, grinning at pilgrims as they go by, and biting his nails because he cannot come to them. So I saw that Christian went on his way, yet at the sight of the old man that sat at the mouth of the cave, he could not tell what to think, especially because he spoke to him, though he could not go after him, saying, "You will never mend till more of you be burned." But he held his peace and set a good face on it, and so went by and caught no hurt. Then sang Christian, "O world of wonders, I can say no less, that I should be preserved in that distress that I've met with here. O blessed be that hand that from it hath delivered me. Dangers and darkness, devils, hell, and sin did compass me while I this vale was in. Yes, snares and pits and traps and nets did lie my path about, that worthless silly I might have been catched, entangled, and cast down. But since I live, let Jesus wear the crown." Chapter 5. Now as Christian went on his way, he came to a little ascent, which was cast up on purpose that pilgrims might see before them. Up there, therefore, Christian went, and looking forward, he saw a faithful before him upon his journey. Then said Christian aloud, "Ho, ho, so ho, stay, and I will be your companion." At that, faithful looked behind him, to whom Christian cried, "Stay, stay, till I come up to you." But faithful answered, "No, I am upon my life, and the avenger of blood is behind me." At this Christian was somewhat moved, and putting to all his strength, he quickly got up with faithful, and did also overrun him. So the last was first. Then did Christian boastfully smile, because he had gotten the start of his brother. But not taking good heed to his feet, he suddenly stumbled and fell, and could not rise again until faithful came up to help him. Then I saw in my dream they went very lovingly on together, and had sweet talk together of all things that had happened to them in their pilgrimage. And thus Christian began, "My honored and well-beloved brother Faithful, I am glad that I have overtaken you, and that God has so tempered our spirits that we can walk as companions in this so pleasant a path. I had thought, dear friend, to have had your company quite from our town, but you did get the start of me, wherefore I was forced to come thus much of the way alone. How long did you stay in the city of destruction before you set out after me on your pilgrimage?" Till I could say no longer, for there was great talk, presently after you were gone out, that our city would, in a short time, with fire from heaven, be burnt down to the ground. What, did your neighbors talk so? Yes, it was for a while in everybody's mouth. What, and did no more of them but you come out to escape the danger? Though there was, as I said, a great talk thereabout, yet I do not think they did firmly believe it. For in the heat of the talking, I heard some of them deridingly speak of you, and of your desperate journey, for so they called this your pilgrimage. But I did believe, and do still, that the end of our city will be with fire and brimstone from above, and therefore I have made my escape. Did you hear no talk of neighbor Pliable? Yes, Christian, I heard that he followed you till he came. Correction, till he came to the Slough of Despond, where, as some said, he fell in, but he would not be known to have so done. But I am sure he was soundly bedabbled with that kind of dirt. And what said the neighbors to him? He hath, since his going back, been held greatly in derision, and that among all sorts of people. Some do mock and despise him, and scarce any will set him on work. He is now 7 times worse than if he had never gone out of the city. But why should they be set so against him, since they also despise the way that he forsook? Oh, they say, hang him, he is a turncoat. He was not true to his profession. I think God has stirred up even his enemies to hiss at him and laugh at him, because he hath forsaken the way. Had you no talk with him before you came out? I met him once in the streets, but he leered away on the other side, as one ashamed of what he had done, so I spake not to him. Well, at my first setting out, I had hopes of that man, but now I fear he will perish in the overthrow of the city, for it has happened to him according to the true proverb. The dog is turned to his vomit again, and the so. Correction, and the saw that was washed to her, wallowing in the mire. These are my fears of him too, but who can hinder that which will be? Well, neighbor faithful, said Christian, let us leave him, and talk of things that more immediately concern ourselves. Tell me now what you have met with in the way as you came, for I know you have met with some things, or else, it may be, writ for a wonder. I escaped the slough that I perceive you fell into, and got up to the gate without it, Christian, without that danger. Only I met with one whose name was Wanton, that had, like to have, done me a mischief. It was well you escaped her net. Joseph was hard put to it by her, and he escaped her as you did, but it had like to have cost him his life. But what did she do to you? You cannot think but that you know something. What a flattering tongue she had! She lay at me hard to turn aside with her, promising me all manner of enjoyment. Nay, she did not promise you the enjoyment of a good conscience. You know what I mean, not the enjoyment of the soul, but of the body. Thank God you have escaped her. The abhorred of the Lord shall fall into her ditch. Nay, I know not whether I did wholly escape her or no. Why, I suppose you did not consent to her desires. No, not to defile myself, for I remembered an old writing that I had seen, which saith, her steps take hold of hell. So I shut mine eyes, because I would not be bewitched with her looks. Then she railed on me, and I went my way. Did you meet with no other assaults as you came? When I came to the foot of the hill called Difficulty, I met with a very aged man, who asked me what I was, and whither bound. I told him that I was a pilgrim going to the celestial city. Then said the old man, thou lookest like an honest fellow. Wilt thou be content to dwell with me for the wages that I shall give thee? Then I asked him his name. and where he dwelt. He said his name was Adam the First, and that he dwelt in the town of deceit. I asked him then what was his work, and what the wages that he would give. He told me that his work was many delights, and his wages that I should be his heir at last. I further asked him what house he kept, and what other servants he had. So he told me that his house was filled with all the dainties of the world, and that his servants were his own children. Then I asked him how many children he had. He said that he had but 3 daughters. The lust of the flesh, the lust of the eye, and the pride of life, and that I should marry them if I would. Then I asked how long time he would have me live with him, and he told me as long as he lived himself. And that's the end of the reading for today. Have a good day.